It's the Move, Build, Grow challenge that we put together for NB Strength. Now, I know a lot of people are coming in person, but those of you guys who weren't able to make it, we're just going to outline the details of the challenge, how you're going to accumulate points, and really what we're looking for here. So the first part of the challenge is all about movement. The goal is to get 30 minutes per day. And honestly, everyone can accumulate that in any way that they'd like. Fitness class, strength session, run, jog, bike, row, ski erg, or purposeful walk. So I know a lot of people go to the gym. They're going to be probably doing 4 or 5 fitness classes, but what we're trying to do is get moving on the days that you're not doing a class or training session. So this is going to be tough for sure, but 30 minutes per day, everyone can find that time, even if it's just going for a really good walk. What we're really not going to count here is anything that you get related to work. So if you happen to be walking 10 minutes a day at work, we're not going to count this. So this is totally outside of what you're typically doing during your work day, or playing with your kids at the playground. That's not going to count. It has to be intentional, purposeful exercise, 30 minutes per day, 30 minutes of movement. We can also count a good yoga session as well, but as you'll see when we get to our next section, a stretching routine is going to be a little bit different than exercise, depending on the person. The next one we're going to focus on, so there's 4 elements. So the second part is building muscle. So we want to focus on getting adequate protein. So this is one part of our simplified nutrition component. So we want adequate protein for developing muscles. And so what everyone's going to do is aim for between 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if everyone is super active in training, they're probably going to be slightly on the higher end. Those people who aren't doing a lot of intense exercise, not a lot of resistance training, definitely you're going to be on the lower end. And if you aren't getting at the lower end, that sure is going to be a challenge for you, that you'll really start to see some changes in your body and how you're feeling as you get to that higher protein, and more on that soon. So you have 2 options here. You can either track on MyFitnessPal, or you can use a hand portion target. So let's say, for example, if you calculated it out and 0.7 grams per pound of body weight, so you take 70% of your body weight, and let's say I have a target of 100 grams of protein, 1 palm. So if you use the palm of your hand, so the full circle of your hand, and about the thickness of your hand as well, that's 1 serving of protein. That's going to be equal to 20 to 25 grams of protein. Another thing that you guys are going to want to do as well is really start to do a little bit of label reading, especially if you're not tracking your nutrition to see if you're getting adequate protein. So really what you would find there is, if you were someone aiming for around 100 grams of protein, you'd be aiming for 4 of those palms, and probably getting some additional protein if you're really starting to label read for it. So let's say, for example, you're having things like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, or even switching the types of bread products you're having. So let's say if you are choosing sprouted grain bread or high protein wraps, you're going to really boost your protein up quite a bit into that 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight range. So we're going to go through a little bit more details on protein, kind of why that is a big part of our challenge. So what we found is that for most people that are in an athletic population, they're doing some type of training, is that there's great evidence now to suggest that having higher than the recommended dietary allowance for protein is going to be beneficial. So somewhere between 1.2 to 2.0 grams per kilogram per day. So in the challenge, I've simplified it to pounds just because it'll be easier for everyone to figure out that math. But this would really align with that quite well. And so what we also look at is for those people that are trying to build this muscle, what is the best way to distribute that throughout the day? So this is just a side thing. It's not going to get you any points, but it's going to make it easier to spread it out. It's also going to be more effective. So from recent research, and this is 2018, so this is a really good review study that shows that if we aim for 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram per day, that's going to maximize our ability to develop muscle. And so what we want to do is spread that out across 4 different eating times. So aiming for between 0.4 grams per kilogram per day, per meal, and 0.55 grams per kilogram per meal. The best way to really look at this is take your protein target, so in that 0.7 to 1 grams per pound of body weight per day, and divide it by 4 and try to spread your dietary protein across 4 eating times. And I'll have an example for you guys right away, but that's a really good way to spread it out and not go over that maximum amount that your body can effectively use, digest, absorb, and actually use effectively. So this is just a little bit extra for those people who are really trying to, possibly as part of this challenge, build some muscle, or if you're trying to lose weight, maintaining the muscle as you do lose weight. Sorry, I might have a kid crying in the background if you guys can hear that. But so if we look at the RDA for protein, the recommended dietary allowance, we will know that that's 0.8 grams per kilogram per day. But that's really not going to be an effective target for most people to maintain or build muscle. So it's well studied that there's benefits for active adults and athletes to aim for that 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram per day, or for our purposes, the 0.7 to 1 gram per pound per day, and to spread that out across 4 eating times, about a quarter of your daily protein target. Now, I'll use myself as an example. So we have myself at 175 pounds, or close to 80 kilograms. If I do the 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram per day, that's 127 to 175 grams per day. So because myself, I'm trying to really build muscle, very active in the gym, doing lots of resistance training, I'm going to aim for that higher end, around the 2 grams per kilogram per day. So let's take 160 grams. If I divide that by 4, roughly want to aim for 40 grams of protein at most eating times. So if we compare that to my hand portion targets, if typically 20 to 25 grams of protein is going to come from that palm of my hand, I'd probably aim for about 1.5 each meal to make sure I get about 40. I'm going to get protein from other sources like the grains that I eat. If I'm eating a large amount of vegetables, I'm going to get some protein there, some dairy options. So there's lots of places that you are going to get some additional protein. So it's not like you just have to focus on that animal-based product. So I put here just as an asterisk, I prefer to aim for about 40 grams in most of my meals, and then I'll have 2 or 3 snacks that have a little bit of protein in them as well to spread that protein out. Now, a lot of people are going to have that question, is a high protein diet safe and healthy for your kidneys? And so for people with normal kidney function, so no chronic disease or specific disease that would affect how my kidneys function, there's no change in how it filters and functions after following a high protein diet. So this is a large research study published fairly recently in the Journal of Nutrition. So high protein diets do not adversely affect kidney function in healthy adults. So now that we know that there's not a lot of risk for it, what are the rewards? So if you're having higher than 1.2 grams per kilogram per day, it's going to promote greater muscle growth during times when someone's involved in resistance exercise. It's going to help preserve lean body mass, your muscle mass, as you lose weight or intentionally are trying to decrease your calories or increase your energy expenditure. It's going to preserve the muscles around bones as we get older. And actually, as we get older, our body doesn't digest and absorb the protein as well. So arguably, as a person gets older, they need more protein to effectively use it to build muscle or keep their muscle. And protein actually, and a lot of people are going to notice this, if they really boost their protein up, it's going to really increase that fullness. And a lot of people like psychologically will think like I'm eating too much food because I'm feeling full. However, their body is just really working really hard to digest it. And it's increasing their fullness level, and which could actually result in lower daily energy intakes if you're not, constantly eating foods because you're feeling full after a meal. And then the really cool benefit of a higher protein diet is every food our body takes in is going to have to digest and absorb it, and that takes energy to complete that process. So protein foods, dietary proteins, they have a higher thermic effect. So our body essentially has to work harder to break those foods down. So it's going to increase the expenditure that we have on a daily basis. And so it's really just going to make, I always tell people, like, the engine burns hotter a little bit. So first part, we got the 30 minutes of movement. Second part, following somewhere between our dietary protein target of 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. If you guys have any questions on this, this is probably the most confusing part of the nutrition challenge is, how am I going to aim for that? How am I going to track it? The simplified version is going to be the hand portions, and a little bit more complicated, a little bit more of a extreme element would be to track it and make sure you're hitting that number on a daily basis. And regardless of which way you do it, the goal is, can we boost that protein up to start to see a change in the body? Now, here are some examples of some protein foods. Typically, when I make resources for people to get an idea of, like, where am I getting the foods from, oftentimes we see like a green, yellow, red, like, stoplight system of, like, eat this, eat some of this, and don't eat this. I like to focus more on the eat more, eat some. And we don't talk a lot about the avoid foods, just to keep things a little bit more positive. So you guys can see some great examples of protein foods. Of course, you're going to incorporate some things in here that, aren't on there, like pork sausage. So we're not trying to get you to be perfect, but we're just trying to focus on what should we focus on more often. And that's prioritizing the fresh, lean, and minimally processed protein sources. I've made this other sheet as well, which I can send out in a more of a PDF format. So it's how do we boost some protein in some, I guess, more secretive ways, like things that people may not think of outside of animal-based protein sources. So we have things like wraps and pastas that can boost your protein. Beans and lentils are typically a carbohydrate source, but they're going to have a side benefit of also being very high protein, which is a little bit conflicting when you hear of things like the Canada's Food Guide really telling us to eat more beans and lentils as a protein source, which that's okay. You just have to know that it is mostly a carbohydrate food based on where the calories are coming from. Then a lot of other high protein options. Dairy is a great option. Having things on hand that are very accessible and easy when you get busy, like tin tunas or hard-boiled eggs, low ingredient protein bars, even turkey bites on occasion, portion cheeses, all great ways to boost protein. Lots of people will often use egg whites because it's just purely protein and there's nothing else, no carbohydrates or fats added. So it's a really good way to boost protein. Even if at breakfast you add extra egg whites to your whole eggs, it's going to boost the protein up a lot. Back bacon is a great way to, make a really high protein breakfast sandwich. Typically people do struggle to get that higher protein amount right at breakfast. Now, oh, sorry, I skipped over this last part, or our next section of the challenge. So number 4, we have a vegetable target. So what we want you to do to accumulate points is we want you to boost your vegetable intake. So a lot of people are going to have the question, fruits and vegetables. I have not typed fruit in here. So we're going to mostly aim for vegetable consumption at 5 servings per day. So you can see 1 serving equals 1 fist or 1 cup. However, you will earn your daily check off by having 4 on the weekend. So as Saturday and Sunday only come up, if you're having 4, you still get a sticker there. So essentially you're aiming for 4 cups of vegetables on the weekends, 5 during the weekdays. And this is going to be a very big challenge. When I thought of, like, should I do 4 or 5, I think a lot of people on a fluky day could hit 4. Definitely 3, like that wouldn't be too challenging, but 5 is a challenge. That is for most people boosting it up. So I guess some of my tips that I could have here is if you have like a big salad, protein, and like rice bowl, which I often like to have for lunches, very easy to accumulate 3 servings of vegetables there. Cut up vegetable bags that have 2 cups of veggies in them and have them as a snack or part of your lunch, say if you're just having a sandwich. Try to, if you're making chili or stew, try and double the vegetables in the recipe. If you're making a pasta sauce, at double the vegetables in it. Roast vegetables, it's a great time in fall to do that. So lots of ways to just boost the vegetables up. And what we really want to see is after 30 days of boosting the vegetables up, how do you feel? Has energy levels changed? Anything else? And that's the 2 components of the nutrition part of the challenge is getting a higher protein and vegetable intake. Now, that doesn't mean I just want you guys to eat vegetables and protein. That couldn't be further from the case here. However, we just want that to be the primary focus of building the meals. And you're going to have carbohydrates and fat-based foods absolutely in there. I'm not promoting low carb, keto, anything like that, any specific diet. All we're doing is boosting the protein and vegetables, and you decide how you want to fulfill your meal other than these nutrition targets. So that's all I have to say about that. Nothing specific, nothing, no religious dietary approach here. Is we're just boosting protein and vegetables. Because I mean, really, those are going to be the common denominators of most healthy diets right now, and lots of good evidence behind both of these features. The 4th component of the challenge is a personal growth challenge where you ultimately are going to be the decision maker on what you're going to do on a daily basis. So I want everyone to pick one single thing that they want to aim for 30 days. That's going to be 100% realistic, an easy sticker to grab or a check mark on your points card. But I just come up with a few examples here, and if you want to go from this list, I 100% encourage it. That's totally fine. So you could aim for reading for 15 minutes per day, or you could have a page target. So that could be a great option. Stretching, so building in a stretching routine. So I don't like to look at that as exercise. For some people that may be the case, but for most of us, this would be more of like a time to focus more on that mental health side of things, or just like feel good and relieve some stress. So we have other options like no screens before bed. So you could say you dictate that time. So you could say like, well, no, I'm not going to go on my phone past this time, or really work on something related to phones like social media time limit. You could do meditation on a daily basis. Let's say you pick like, I'm going to do the meditation for 5 to 10 minutes. Journaling. If you don't really know what you could do there's phone apps or things that you could buy online that is kind of will help prompt like you to think about some things. So the best one that I can think of off the top of my head is the 5-minute journal. So it takes 5 minutes and it has prompts for you to answer questions like, what was the best part of your day? What would have made today even better? Things of that nature. Creating a morning routine. So maybe you get up and do like a few elements of this, but it's going to obviously have to be very realistic for you, something that you can aim for at least 25 days out of the month. Waking up at an earlier time, or maybe going to bed at a certain time. So whatever you guys pick, I hope that it's something that you've been thinking about trying for a while, but just needed a little bit of a boost, or this type of accountability to give it a try. Maybe it could be something along the lines of nutrition that's outside of the protein and vegetables. Maybe it could be like trying to cut off caffeine after a certain time. So whatever you guys would like to do and you think it's going to help you physically or mentally with some personal growth, then I want you to pick that. So how this works is everyone's going to get a sheet, or if you're not able to make it in person, I'm going to send a PDF, and that PDF is going to have 4 squares each day. And I'm going to give out, for the people that come in person, a little pages of stickers. And so every day you're going to be able to put a little sticker in each square if you're successful. So if you move for 30 minutes, you get a sticker. If you're getting that higher protein intake, hit a sticker. If you're getting your 5 cups of vegetables on the weekday, 4 on the weekends, get a sticker. If you are doing your personal growth challenge that just you have picked, it's very individual, you get a sticker. So what we want to do there is at the 30-day mark, if you have at least 96 stickers, so you have 24 opportunities to lose the stickers and still get entered into the prize draw. So everyone who does have at least 80% of their pages finished can submit their tracking card at the end of the challenge and be entered in to win the prize draw. So let's say if we have 20 people that enter the prize draw, probably only about half the people will win prizes, maybe a little bit more. And then let's say if we only have like 8 to enter the prize draw, everyone's going to win a pretty sweet prize. So because we have a decent group, we are going to have some great prizes, and I'm super excited to give those out when we're done. I will send everything out, so I'll get a copy of the slides, the tracking sheet, a little bit on like the protein foods and protein boosters. But if you have any questions, please email me at dallas.odgers@gmail.com. Happy to answer it, and looking forward to seeing how everyone feels at the end of the weekend. I will say this is that I know a lot of people have done challenges in the past. Maybe sometimes they've been confusing or life gets in the way, you get super busy. So my main goal for this challenge was it to be simple enough so that people could be successful, but also challenging enough where people are going to see a benefit from it. So I think we've struck a good balance there where everyone's going to be able to work on something and see a benefit at the end of the month. Yeah, great chatting with you guys, and hopefully I'll hear about how everything's going in the weeks to come. Have a great night.